Have you ever looked at a GCSE maths question and just wondered, what on earth does the examiner actually want from me? Well, today we're going to do exactly that. We're going under the hood of a pretty typical exam question, not just to solve it, but to crack the code of the official mark scheme and see how to lock in every single one of those marks.
Okay, so here's our plan. We'll start by looking at the exam question itself. Then we're going to tackle Part A on describing correlation before diving into Part B, which is all about estimation. And then, the best part, we'll reveal the mark scheme's verdict so you know exactly where those marks come from.
First up, let's get our bearings and really understand the problem we're about to solve.
So, what we're looking at here is Question 6 from the Pearson Edexcel Higher Tier, Paper 1. And remember, Paper 1 means no calculator. This one's from the Summer 2023 exam series.
And it's a real classic data interpretation problem. You know the type. It's all about a scatter graph that shows the relationship between a baby's age and its weight. It's split into two little parts, A and B, and it's worth a total of 3 marks. Now, 3 marks might not sound like a lot, but you and I both know they can make all the difference.
Right, let's get straight into the first part of the question. This one is all about communication, using exactly the right words to describe what you're seeing in the data.
So the question just asks you to describe the relationship you see on the scatter graph. Now, this is only a 1-mark question, but wow, is it easy to throw this mark away if you're not specific enough. So what does a perfect, guaranteed mark-winning answer actually look like?
And here it is, your secret weapon, taken straight from the mark scheme itself. If you write, as age increases, weight increases, you get the mark. Period. Why? Well, because it's crystal clear, it mentions both variables, age and weight, and it perfectly describes that upward trend.
The good news is, the examiners do give you a few different ways to get this right. You could also say something like, the older you are, the greater the weight, or even just positive correlation. Do you see the pattern here? Every single correct answer clearly connects the two things being measured, age and weight.
And this is just as important. This is where people trip up. The mark scheme is super clear about what doesn't get the mark. Just writing positive is way too vague. Saying it's strong doesn't actually describe the relationship. And saying they're in proportion is a very specific mathematical claim that isn't true here. It's all about precision.
Okay, let's keep the momentum going and move on to Part B. This is where we go from just describing the graph to actually using it.
For Part B, you're asked to use the scatter graph to estimate the age of a baby that weighs 5.8 kilograms. This part is worth 2 marks, and to get them, you've got to physically interact with the graph to find your answer.
So how do you make sure you bag both of those marks? Well, the mark scheme gives you a crystal clear process. Step 1, and this is absolutely crucial, you must draw a line of best fit. Then, you find 5.8 on the weight axis, you draw a line across to hit your line of best fit, and then you draw a line straight down to the age axis. You read your answer, and you're done. Those lines you draw are your proof.
All right, let's put on our examiner's hat for a second. We've seen the question, we know the method, but how are those 3 marks actually given out? Let's break it down.
Okay, this is the anatomy of the question. For Part A, you get what's called a C1 mark for a valid description, no confusion. Then for Part B, you get a B1 mark just for drawing a line of best fit or for showing your read-off lines on the graph. The final B1 mark is for getting an answer in the right ballpark. This is huge. It means showing your method can get you a mark, even if your line of best fit is a tiny bit off.
So just to be clear on those letters, that C mark for Part A is a communication mark. It's all about how well you explain yourself in writing. The B marks in Part B, though, are for unconditional accuracy, basically for getting the right answer or, in this case, for showing the correct method.
So after drilling down into the mark scheme for just this one question, what's the big lesson? What's the one thing you should always remember when you see a scatter graph in an exam?
It really boils down to this. Be super precise with your words. Always mention both variables for correlation. When you're estimating, you have to draw a line of best fit, and you have to make your method obvious by drawing those read-off lines. Just remember, showing your work isn't just good practice. It literally earns you marks.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Think about your own exam papers. Just by making your method a little clearer on the page and your language a little more precise, how many extra marks are just sitting there, hiding in your workings, waiting for you to claim them?